Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Good afternoon, welcome back. Just letting people come back in. So first of all, I'd like to bring on the three panelists that will help today. We're going to, first of all, Christina from Lufthansa Innovation Hub. So Christina's made the journey over from Berlin, so please join me on the stage. Then we have Federico, thank you. Then we have Federico from Google, so looking forward to having understandings of how we're using insights to understand our journey experience. And finally, we have Aaron, Head of Innovation from the Vinci Anna Group in terms of our airport. So thank you very much. Please, at the moment, Christina will go over to the podium. She'll make a small 10-minute presentation on what is going on with innovation
or here
in Lufthansa. And then I will basically invite the three of them to kind of understand a little bit about where do we see innovation. What's good is that we're going to have obviously somebody from an airline, from the airport, so understanding a little bit about where that integration can be, how do we understand the customer's experience, the journey, and make that better. And then obviously use the insights from Google to understand what people want from travel and how that can be then provided back to our airline and airports to ensure we have a more integrated journey. So thank you very much, Christina. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Kevin. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today and to be part of this wonderful event in this beautiful venue here. And I'm also glad that I get the chance to introduce the Lufthansa Innovation Hub to you. It's the digital innovation and transformation unit of Lufthansa Group, and share with you a bit how we drive innovation throughout the customer journey. And to start with, and I think we have heard it multiple times today, multiple dynamics are shaking up travel. We see technologies changing, customer expectations are changing, people might travel less because of sustainability concerns, and so on and so forth. And with all this evolving, we also realize that actually nobody really knows what the future of travel will look like. And but we, as Lufthansa Innovation Hub, this is why we understand ourselves, we are here for, to figure that out. We want to know what this future will look like. And yeah, we want to sense those market trends and shifts and translate them into business opportunities for Lufthansa Innovation Hub and Lufthansa Group. And to share with you a bit how we do it as a team, we are set up in three capabilities. And those three capabilities, one, strategic intelligence, they are actually systematically analyzing and screening the market for early market signals to detect trends and translate them into thought leadership. Then our new business team is trying to unlock new value pools by launching new business models into the market, but also by screening the market for promising startups to partner up with or strategically invest in. And then last but not least, the transformation team, they channel it all back. So they are driving innovation from within the Lufthansa Group by offering educative formats like trainings, workshops from leadership level to employee level. And yeah, like this, enabling actually the organization to transform from within with an innovation mindset and the right skill set. And right now, I would like to zoom into two teams today, strategic intelligence and new business. To start with, how is our SI team gathering intelligence from the market to detect all those market signals and so on and so forth? I would like to share with you a little behind the scenes how our SI team works. This is actually our indicator stack. Yeah, so the methods, the sources, the tools that we are using to sense market trends, and we are differentiating between leading and lagging indicators. Leading indicators being early signals where we are unsure actually what the outcome will be. It could be, for example, funding dynamics. So we're observing where is risk capital going into, tech dynamics. On the other hand, lagging indicators are, it's showing impact of things that have happened in the past. Here we look at media and consumer sentiment or user behavior on digital platforms. So, and with all this indicator stack, we take it all together then, and of course we try to map how will this future of travel will look like. And this is, let's say, our idea of it. We call it the great inversion. And why the great inversion? Because we believe it's the pivotal transformation towards a more customer-centric travel mobility tech value chain. And as you can see, we have 5 sub-trends, and our team is very creative in naming them. So it's like communities-defined demand, transactional to relational, embedded travel. So those are those high sub-trends. And then we have a lot of trends, and we have a lot of sub-trends. I mean, we won't have time to deep dive into each and every of these trends, but I will show you later on where to read all up. And to give you a few examples, we're looking into the self-empowered traveler with its distinct travel needs driven by community values, or, for example, blur travel, so people blending business and leisure travel, the next industry stack, immersive technologies, Web3, NFT blockchain. I will show you one concrete example in a bit. And for example, for embedded travel, social distribution, and how actually the creator economy has created the need for bookable content via new sales channels like social media, and also disrupted the whole inspiration landscape. And with this, I mean, this is our innovation thesis or innovation compass that guides the work for us at the Lufthansa Innovation Hub. But I would like to show you 3 concrete examples of our research work. One being, for example, a recently released one, airline patent analysis, where we screened 50 top airline patent portfolios worldwide as a proxy for industry innovation. And one little spoiler, if you look at the patents that are being filed by airlines, for example, 57% in seat design, you will also realize that it's not in line with the actual traveler pain points that we're also analyzing. So have a read here if you want to find out more. Another topic that we were looking at, NFTs, and as I mentioned, the whole next industry tech stack. So for NFTs in particular, we looked, of course, what are use cases in the travel context. And we identified 3. Once NFTs being used in travel communities, then for, of course, loyalty programs, we will come to that in a bit, and NFT passports, so for verification and documentation. And we also assessed in this research piece the relevance of today and also in future of this technology. And last but not least, because of course we can't miss on that one, so Gen AI, and we were looking into this topic, of course, a lot as well recently, and in particular this report, we wanted to deep dive into ChatGPT-powered travel planning tools because we saw many startups and players emerging in that field. And we looked or zoomed in into weaknesses and then also potential opportunities in that field for companies. One being the fact that chat-based interface might be not the most intuitive one when you plan your trip, right? And in this report, we are actually discussing the potential of unlocking the power of Gen AI-powered travel planning tools through new interfaces or map interfaces like Google Maps. So have a read here if you like this topic. And now maybe coming to our new business team. So how do we use this intelligence to build and launch these new business models into the market for Lufthansa Group? I brought today 2 examples that I would like to showcase to you. One being UpTrip. UpTrip is a project that we've been working on with Lufthansa Group's Miles & More team. It's a gamified loyalty app that allows Lufthansa Group airlines to leverage NFTs to boost their interaction with customers, especially with underrepresented customers for their loyalty program like Gen Z. And the team is doing really well. They have a solid user base. And how it actually works, once you travel with Lufthansa Group, you scan your boarding passes, you select either origin or destination, the plane that you took, or the airline you used. Once you collect this, you can complete certain collections and get airline or travel rewards. And last but not least, you can optionally also mint your trading cards and then trade them on a marketplace as well. So if you're a heavy traveler, especially now with Lufthansa Group, check out and download UpTrip. It's really fun to collect these cards. And another example that our team was heavily working on is Swifty. It's an AI business travel assistant that helps business travelers, especially smaller companies, self-employed travelers, to book or plan, book, and pay their business trips within 5 minutes via chat. So it actually addresses the pain point of a fragmented business travel booking. And yeah, so the large language model of the chat assistant is based on OpenAI's GPT-4, and the supply comes, so the flight and hotel supply comes from Expedia and Duffel. So if you are self-employed or a smaller company not using a standard travel company, try out Swifty when you plan your next business trip. And with this, I would like to come to an end. If you want to learn more about our research work in general, tnmt.com is the platform where we publish everything. If you want to get it automated or automatically, you can subscribe to our bi-weekly newsletter. And other than that, happy to connect also on LinkedIn if you want to discuss certain things, or check out our website to figure out how else to work with us. And right now, I'm looking forward to the panel. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you. Please come and join us. And before I open up to the panel, I think we had a fascinating presentation from MasterCard and Innovation Hub to see an airline. You know, when you think about the airline sector and the challenges that airlines are facing, that an organization has taken the initiative to really invest in organizations that will hopefully not just make their airline better, of course, but help the whole industry get better. And Tourism of Portugal, some years ago, I was lucky enough as running an airline here in Portugal to be invited on a journey project where, again, we were looking at investing new businesses into the airline sector. And I'm with a venture capitalist group now in Portugal doing the same thing in aviation and airports. So it's good that the airline industry is finally really taking innovation beyond, let's just call sustainability of fuel, EVTOLs and all of the things about what people will travel like in the next 30 years. But what about people getting through airports, getting on airlines today? So these are really good things. I'm going to open up, let's leave the airline and airports, let's talk about Google, and maybe Google needs to get into seat design and do some work. Good seats, Google Seats maybe, or Google Air coming. Federico, tell us a little bit about, what's going on in our industry. What are you seeing in all of your research and data? How are people traveling? What are the opportunities? And if you want to make it a little bit specific to Portugal with the audience, kind of give us a view on how is travel today?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation. We are proudly a big part, or one of the parts of Nest. So what we see, in our perspective, there is a very important thing at the center, which is the consumer, the traveler in this case. And what we see specifically from the post-pandemic times, or now, specifically since 2022, is a big shift in terms of consumer behavior. And this is where we are working with our travel customers and travel partners to really try to nail and to better understand where consumers are going when we think about 2 or 3 years from now. Not today, because today we really know execution-wise how to deal with that. We don't know how to deal with what's coming ahead. We see 4 things that are very, very clear for us. It's important for Lufthansa, it's important for ANA, it's important for the hospitality business in terms of consumers. One is travel is a big priority for consumers. In a macroeconomic environment with the things that are going in Ukraine and the Middle East, travel remains a huge priority. Even when compared with other activities. For instance, we know and we see from our query and from our search data that people are searching less for dining out or for nightlife than for travel. Global travel demand is still very high. This is very important. Second, the planning window is increasing. And this, it needs to be very important for the industry because we need to adapt. People are taking more time planning for their next trip, which is important. People are more diligent in terms of where to go, how to go, where are the prices, and so macroeconomic environment is uncertain, and we need to understand that. Third, they are seeking for inspirational experiences. They need to differentiate whether to go from Porto to, I don't know, to Tunis in Tunisia. What are the differences? What is inspiring me to decide to take my decision to go to this destination and not that destination? And last but not least, and very important for the travel business, people are looking for effortless experiences. It's very complex to travel, whether to the buying process, to go through the airport, to go through the plane, rules, health rules. It's very difficult, and we need to help people to remove those obstacles, to enhance, and to go to the keynote of this morning, to enhance the transformative experience of travel. For Portugal, it's important that we understand that it's very hot, still very hot to come to Portugal. Global demand to Portugal is still high, is breaking records in terms of search. I was looking at the numbers for the past 4 weeks, and we are still, international demand to Portugal is still growing 10% compared with last year that we broke all the records in terms of travel demand. We need to understand what are the markets that are searching for Portugal. For instance, the US and Canada, still very hot searching for Portugal. Germany, very hot. We saw that Brazil is not that hot, and how can we adapt as Portugal to this data and to these trends that are coming for Portugal? We should not take it for granted. I'm Portuguese. We should not take it for granted. It's different to receive an American than to receive Spanish. It's different. No one is better. But it's a different experience. They expect more from us, and we need to adapt. But the good news is, I feel, and from the data that we have, 2024 will be a very good year for Portugal.
Good. It's very good to hear. Interestingly, Frederico mentioned that planning stages are increasing. If we think about what happened post-COVID, it was a little bit the opposite. We were desperate to travel, so all of a sudden, I mean, the Lufthansa group was putting flights into the Azores that they wouldn't normally have been doing because there was market demand. All of a sudden, everybody wanted to travel. Now the research is showing that the planning is going a bit longer again. That will have a big impact on airports and obviously on airlines, because we had something called route experimentation. So let's try a route because the new demand was coming. Now we're going maybe a little bit back to what we used to do, where we would plan a little bit more. But I think this idea of, yes, the barometer, I mean, I might look a bit tired. I was on a conference overnight with Thailand in an airport in Thailand, and interestingly, Thailand numbers in airports are down 30%. So when Frederico mentions how successful Portugal is doing, there are countries that are still not doing well. They're down because China didn't come back. Portugal had very important. I'd been involved with some China development, but our need of China was not the same as a country like Thailand, and that's why we've been able to kind of bounce back much faster in Europe than maybe other Asian markets. It's difficult as an airport. We've all had the challenges, of course. When we were busy back in 22, 23, we saw pictures of Amsterdam, we saw pictures of Heathrow, we saw pictures of Paris, we saw pictures of Lisbon, with confusion. Yep. What's happening, Aaron, in terms of the journey? How can all the great things we discussed this morning, how can airports kind of put that kind of little bit of misery behind us and get back to what the airport is a good part of the journey?
Yeah, it's a very important topic in terms of how we can support the traffic growth. We see the tourism numbers, as you mentioned. The business travel is also rebounding. And that was one of the big unknowns for a lot of people, that we really need to make sure that when we look at the airport experience, is that we saw in Portugal, especially on the islands, the traffic rebounded faster than ever. In other airports in our group, we learned from Japan and from Cambodia, it did not respond as quick because of the tourism shifts and demands and the profile of traffic. So from an airport perspective, what people often misunderstand is that we actually don't know who's coming to our airports and when, until they're at the airport. So we have to really try and make sure that we have a better anticipation. I think what we saw during COVID is a lot more people reaching out to the airport as well. So we spent a lot of time investing into how do we have better digital channels to create the resiliency that it's not dependent upon a person in a call center. So bringing chatbots, bringing better information online, working with partners as well. How many people in the audience probably don't have an airport application? How do we work with the airline partners? How do we work with Google? We heard from MasterCard this morning, the rise of the super app. We had to really make sure that we embark with our partners on how to communicate to passengers, to provide e-commerce opportunities so they can better plan their journey during the day of travel. Then at the airport itself, we need to really facilitate and make it easier to travel. You mentioned that earlier. That is something that you've recently in Portugal, we just introduced the biometrics. Again, MasterCard mentioned that as one of the key trends this year, is the digital identity. You're continually repeating your behavior at the airport that frustrates. You're fumbling, you're keeping documents handy, et cetera. We want to remove that. Do that once at the beginning of the travel and facilitate that throughout the entire journey. So from there on, it's just walk up to an e-gate or to another device, take a photo. We can know from that, because of your consent, who you are, facilitate that transaction. Make it that you don't have to search for documents. A big part of our focus on this solution type as well, this is not going to be the only digital identity that you use in your day. So how can we work with the Star Biometric Hub that Lufthansa is a key part of? How do we work with Chave Digital? Portuguese people already have a digital identity. How do we link the boarding pass to that? And that becomes sufficient to make that digital identity for the day of travel. These are the kind of things that we want to really embrace, that community aspect, to facilitate the travel through the airport. And then in the airport, of course, there's a number of things about even one of the simple steps that a lot of people probably didn't pick up. Before, you would scan your boarding pass at security, and you'd scan your boarding pass again when you start to take your items out of the bag. That's gone. That simple step, again, is facilitating the traffic to make sure we understand how we can still monitor traffic going through the airport, provide us performance, but take those simple steps away from the journey process to make it easier for travel. And then it really is more about when people have control, it becomes about the experience. How do we get you back into enjoying the food, the beverage, understanding the different things you can do in the airport, and even making that a local sense of place? If you look in Porto here, there's a lot of airport stores that are very similar to Lisbon and other locations, but there's Francesinha. How do you make sure you've got an opportunity to have what's local here? And that's a sense of place that we're trying to bring to all the different locations in the airports as well.
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head, and you asked the audience a question: how many people have an airport app? And I'm a significant traveler, and I don't, but I have most airline apps. And I think what's interesting from what we learned this morning from the gentleman discussing about the cruise companies, the benefit of the mobile phone and an app allows you to track potentially where I am in your experience. So the benefit is that I might be in your building for 2 to 3 hours. I'm on the airline for could be 7 hours, but there's minimal interaction that can then happen. But in the airport experience and with the technologies, with the startups, etc., there must be really interesting ways that looking at what shopping centers have done in terms of knowing where I am at a point of time and knowing what I want to do in that next point of time. How can you then help me get to the gate via the coffee shop? I need to buy something to take home, and you plot me a journey, and that might be then why we have an app.
And that's the huge part, is creating that communication as to what is the value, what are the services that we can offer that's unique to make you provide that kind of interaction. But one of the key challenges we face as well is that when we think about tourism experiences, we hear a lot about premium tour experience. So the 5-star traveler, the 4-star, 3-star, 2-star. We have, in the same moment, arriving in the airport, the 15-euro budget traveler with the first-class traveler. So we have to provide a service that can differentiate in a very small manner of time without making somebody feel inferior to another, to be able to provide a service for those people. So we have to make sure we have differentiated, personalized travel experiences that can accommodate that throughout the airport journey. And absolutely, there's a lot of those location-based services that can really trigger. My dream, I walk into the airport, they already know that I want a coffee at that time, so as soon as I go through security, Starbucks gets a message, okay, there's my Starbucks coffee, I'm going up to the lounge, I'm walking in, they know who I am. That's sort of the dream. The reality is, a lot of people coming through Portugal are tourism. So they may only come once every 3 years. You don't build up intelligence through that. Therefore, that's where some of the Googles and others that can have that, the aggregate data source to put that into different stakeholders is a really valuable tool for the tourism industry.
Good. Thank you. Christina, so yes, you've kind of given us a little bit of an overview of kind of where you've been. Obviously, let's not just complain about airports. Airlines also
we can celebrate airports too.
Are not just the holy grail. And I think a lot of airlines have invested very heavy in hardware, and I'm surprised, Lufthansa's A350 business class seat is pretty good, so I don't know why people were complaining. But I think, airlines have done a lot of work on the hardware, make sure the plane environment's very good, the whole concept of the physical product. But then again, there's the journey experience that goes beyond, because who owns the customer? It's not really the airport. We don't have a relationship with the airport. Aaron's saying we can do, but as as passengers, our relationship is with the airline. And but they've only got us for part of the journey, the little bit in the middle. So how do you see that kind of relationship of not, the passenger is the airlines, it's not the airports. You've invested very much in having really good aircraft, etc. how do we kind of get the softer experiential thinking, and how can the Innovation Hub help us in that?
Yeah, I think you're right that airlines or the aviation industry has been quite focused on assets, right? Like driving innovation and growth through planes, seats, and so on and so forth. And the patent analysis confirms that it hasn't really changed. And this is also why we're talking about this whole great inversion or this pivotal transformation from asset to customer centricity, and that we need to change our understanding of the concept of travel, that travelers, they do not just want to go from A to B or just take the flight. They want to have this holistic, seamless customer experience. And I mean, how do we cater for it at the Lufthansa Innovation Hub? We understand, or we have the mandate to be, it sounds funny, but like the speedboat for innovation for Lufthansa Group. And the idea is to bypass processes, the bigger organization, the regulations, and so on and so forth, and to test waters and assumptions that we have in the market quickly. And I mean, I have showed you like examples, but not how we do it. We have a structured innovation funnel where every idea that we have for a digital business model or a digital solution goes from, once we have the ideation done, it goes quickly to validation, where we want to test the first, let's say, attractiveness of that idea in the market in a very lean way. And only then, when we see there is potential and traction out there, we build a very, let's say, scrappy MVP, very low budget, to see, okay, can we prove desirability in the market for this digital product or service? And then we try to scale it and find actually this product market fit. And this whole idea is basically to bypass this, let's say, more complicated infrastructures that we have at the core organization, of course. But I also think that not everything has to be built in-house. A lot of innovation is bundled in the startup ecosystem. And I think nowadays startups are heavily funded. You have, as a corporate, to see them on eye level, and actually it's like externally available R&D money that you could use. Yeah, so this is why we also look out for startups to partner up with and to bring external innovation to Lufthansa Group and eventually its travelers.
Can you explain a little bit about where do you see the innovation grounded? I mean, is it the strategic department of Lufthansa would say, you know, we've done some due diligence. Let's say we're doing something with ancillaries. We need to make a bit more money. Does the airline kind of do something to say we need a project, and then your organization picks that up, or do you go out there and find the really good startups and think, wow, this could be really good for Lufthansa. Why don't I introduce it into the strategic team of the airline? Is there a kind of a flow for, are you driving the innovation into the airline, or is the airline kind of helping to tell you where they need to go, and then you go and find the right startups to help the issues that the management have kind of put to the table?
I think we have definitely both cases. Usually I would say we are coming from the market perspective. We are observing VC flows, media echoes. This gives us kind of a proxy for future trends. This is our belief. And based on that, we try then to innovate and find this new idea and solution. But we are also heavily relying on impulses from Lufthansa Group, because our colleagues are industry experts. They know usually where are the super pressing issues also along the customer journey. And this is why we also have formats where we run ideations with Lufthansa Group experts together. Good. So I would say both ways.
Yeah, no, and I suppose for those interested in investing in the startups, which it's where we're seeing a lot of potential, it's getting them in front of the right clients and ensuring that, you know, that they can support that. Let's talk a little bit about Google again, Federico. So new technologies, big data, AI, how's that going to kind of help position and make things relevant for travel? Any thinking within your internal innovation?
Well, AI is the keyword inside Google. For us, it's the third big shift after the internet and then the mobile era. AI is the third big shift, and we we pretty much know that it will impact pretty much all verticals, all industries at the core, infrastructure, healthcare, wherever we want to talk, AI will impact. We need to differentiate AI from Gen AI. Gen AI impacts the user more. AI will impact industries, companies, whatever you want to call it, and it's very important. We see, for instance, in Asia, you were mentioning Asia, we see in Asia some pockets of innovation in terms of AI, for instance, for robotics for guest experience inside hotels and in hospitality. Very interesting, gaining a lot of productivity and efficiency for the hotels. I don't know about the guest experience being served by a robot, but it depends on the consumer and depends on the cultural background of each consumer. Gen AI is different. Gen AI will impact the user and the way the user will take advantage of an industry, an activity, and I think we see that it's going to help users and to help specifically SMBs to level the playing field with big enterprises. What we see, personalized consumer experiences. Gen AI will impact, if you see, there are already players, apps, what we want to call it, that are creating. I don't know if you know, there are a lot of people searching for the ultimate travel experience. I want to have a lifetime experience in terms of traveling. I don't know, I just want to travel. I just want to spend some time traveling. A lot of people are trying to understand what will be the ultimate experience in travel. And so Gen AI will impact to the planning part of the journey in terms of travel, and it will be very important. Enhanced content creation. This will be massive. Why? Because if you are Lufthansa, if you are a big enterprise, you have agencies, you have creative agencies helping you to create your creatives. Now, APIs, Gen AI will help you to have the same level of creativity, the same quality of creativity, even if you are a small hospitality or hostel that works in Porto, works in Viana do Castelo, which will be very important. And last, for us, very important, it will even take it to another level, the part of the translation and communication. Why? Because the multimodality of Gen AI, if we see ChatGPT or Bard, will help us when we think of going to very distant places. Even in Asia, even going to Japan today, it's difficult for a Portuguese to go, and I think it will enhance the translation experience for travelers. And I think, honestly, travel will be, on the consumer part, one of the best cases in terms of taking advantage of AI and Gen AI.
Yeah, I agree. And in some cases, you might want to disagree and say the whole point of going to places like Japan and China, that it was difficult. You know, that was the complexities of not speaking the same and sign language and, you know, and picking food
but I've used my mobile phone to translate.
Picking food by pictures in restaurant windows and things. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we homogenize tourism. But of course, I know what you say. It does make it easier. Coming back to the airports, obviously, airlines and airports, there's this kind of, let's call it landlord and tenant relationship. You know, they need each other, but they don't kind of always work as close as they could. It's not that they're competing, because I don't know any airlines that own airports, and unless governments own the airport and own a national airline, it's not normal. So they're not really competing, but they don't seem to share data as if they could, because at the end of the day, it is a passenger of the airline, this is a customer of the airport. How might you work closer with Lufthansa, Ryanair, EasyJet, you know, to talk over everybody? How might you see the vision of mobility and travel getting easier with shared data between an airline and an airport?
I think one of the big steps that's taken place is that a lot of the discussion, you know, it's come up here today. Who's the customer? Who are you the customer of? At a certain point, we have to say, nobody. They're a traveler, they're a person. They're gonna use multiple services as they go through their experience. And I think by doing that, we've been able to sort of step back from some of the, every time that you have a flight delay, there's a behind the scenes discussion as to, is it the airline, the airport, or the civil aviation? That's 9 times out of 10, there's a debate that goes on behind the scenes, and that's what can damage some of the relationships. What I think we've seen is that by stepping forward a little bit, we're seeing how do we get to the solution that avoids that debate? How do we have different people perhaps in those discussions to make sure that we don't get stuck back in the details, but that we can look forward? A huge part of what we're looking at now for new solutions is partnering with the airlines, with the ground handler, with the authorities, We did a project recently, not with Lufthansa, but with Transavia, where we really worked across 2 different countries to do the first ever time that we had an international flight without any bag tags. So everybody knows the experience. When you go to check a bag, you tag the bag, you put a piece of paper around it, it takes time, it's energy, and it goes through. Working together with a startup who brought some great technology, with the airline saying that this is an issue that they have a lot of money, a lot of paper spent flying bag tags around the world. We wanted to save the time at the airport and provide a better experience. By doing some new AI, we were able to say we're going to take photos of that bag and track it in the same way that the physical tag does today. Those are the kind of things that by stepping forward and saying, what are the common challenges? How do we work together? We actually create solutions and not just trialing a technology offline. So we really have to find what's going to make a business value, having that discussion together, and then working on the solution together. Yes, there's still going to be the fights behind the scenes. That won't change anytime soon. But by progressively looking at it as what is the value that we provide back to the tourism sector, that helps us to create solutions that focus on value and not based on how do we better negotiate behind the scenes.
No, very good. Christina, the industry, aviation, it's notoriously slow to change. You know, we know that. It's highly regulated. How have you been able to get the people in headquarters to really take the vision of the innovation and the startup visions and the philosophies that are coming through that? Because we're not an industry that changes quickly compared to other sectors. Any learnings that you can give out there that, how airlines, or how this group of airlines has been able to kind of be a little bit more open to change?
Yeah, no, like in general, you're right. The industry is slow in change. I just read recently that commercial aviation took 70 years to reach 50 million users, and ChatGPT 2 months, 100 million users. I think those are different playing fields, but and I think it's also reasonable that some parts of the industry were slow in change, like because the core operation of the airline is around like safety of flight operations. So, but if we carve out these aspects and take this modern, digitally savvy than ever consumer, I think this is where we can test more and more and more. And how to convince these people at the head office and the executives and so on and so forth. I have not mentioned that last team in my presentation in detail, but we have this team called Transformation, and they're actually all about bringing that spark and that excitement in innovation culture, failure culture, challenging status quo by offering leadership trainings, customized team workshops within Lufthansa Group. So they try to plant that seed early on to drive that, let's say, innovation mindset in the right spaces within the group.
Yeah, as you say, it's just don't even get onto ticketing because the fact that how complicated it is to book a ticket relative, and we've just not been able to adapt fast enough, and hence why what you're doing to try to showcase the challenge and worry would be that the company's investing in a group that gives potentially knowledge to the other airlines. If you think about it, you're trying to change the mind of the industry rather than just change your own individual part of the industry. So it's a great innovative to think like that you're a step change in the industry rather than just helping Lufthansa Group make more money in that way. Just to kind of wrap up, we've got 5 or 6 minutes left. I'm not sure if we have microphones for questions, so I probably won't go there unless I'm get told. I'll go back around. Is there, start again, anything you'd like to kind of add, this idea of, what you've mentioned, the importance of the dynamics of the market, the priorities, the planning's changing, the experiences, etc. Anything else that you feel we can learn from what Google is been trying to develop?
No, honestly, our idea has always been the mission of the company is to provide the right information to the right user at the right time. If we think of travel, I think it's exactly the same. We need to enhance customer experience. Travel is a pleasant experience. Of course, sometimes we need to travel business, and we won't want to travel to Madrid or to Dublin just because I have a meeting or something. But even that is changing because there is a word now in travel called leisure. I don't know if I'm speaking it right because it's a mix of business travel with leisure. We need to take advantage of that. We need to enhance the travel experience. Sometimes it's traumatic. I'm a family man, so I have kids. Sometimes when we have to travel, the four of us, I have to take care of everything. It's tiring. And it's not supposed to be tiring. Companies should help us. So there is I don't know, a green field between companies that has to do with regulation, with safety, with security, and people that want to travel, that between point A and point B, there is a huge disruption in the middle. And we need to try to ease up the travel experience. And for the businesses, for hotels, for hostels, for museums, and for other, it's the same, exactly the same. We need to do better. I live in Lisbon. I live nearby the Belém Tower. And it's not normal that sometimes there is a museum close to the Belém Tower which is empty, and the Belém Tower has, I don't know, 5,000 people waiting in line. How can we enhance this experience by saying, if you want to spend 10 minutes here, why don't you spend 10 minutes in that museum? And when the queue is better, you can come back and have the experience. So we really need to work in terms of partnership. The industry is not airports, is not airlines, is not hotels, and it's not the traveler. We need to work better and to work with better connectivity to enhance the customer experience.
No, and there's no better. I mean, if you looking at, we don't have anybody representing the distribution side.
Yes.
But if you mention to the consumers, the travelers during the pandemic, pre-pandemic, there was always discussion, you know, travel agencies are finished, they don't do anything, they just sell tickets. The pandemic proved that. When I phoned an airline, nothing was happening. The travel agents are the one that stepped up and did what Federico said, helped people. It wasn't a robot, it was a person that managed to get what they needed. So I think this kind of touch and is still important. You know, we can't just overcomplicate the process. At the end of the day, where can we build that back? Again, anything more on the airport side that you think you want to add?
Well, I think where we can really, there's two aspects in general. That one, we were discussing it last night as well, but when there's going to be disruption in travel. We saw the weather last night. It's reasonable to understand that things are going to be delayed. It's going to be disrupted, whether it be by car or by flight or whatever else. I think we still have a step to take in terms of that digital engagement to say that when there's something happening, how do we make a decision quickly that can say, okay, now we're going to communicate to the passenger to let them know what is going to happen, whether it be good or bad news, so they can take an action. They want to be in control. I think we're still missing steps and solutions, both as airports, airlines. There's also that element of like, what do you communicate about who's responsible for that, because that has an impact on the claims that come back, et cetera. So we really need to step forward to say, how do we again put the passenger centricity to say, we're going to communicate as quickly as possible, give them the information so they can make a decision. And then the second part of it is that I still think there's too much airline, airport, and then the rest of the tourism sector. How do we better connect? I mean, this is the audience for it, to say, how do we get more of what is the car rental process? What is the hotel experience? We're doing a lot of work on digital identity. How could that benefit? Why is it not that when I come off the flight, I go to the hotel and I'm all able to use that identity again? Those are the kind of things that I think would be really the transformative step for Portugal to bring that to the next connected whole tourism experience, to provide that end-to-end passenger experience that we can then leverage. And I think that's a huge step that we have to do. And I think that's where Nest and others have a great opportunity to bring us together to educate digital opportunities, the experiences we're trying to create. And that is why we got involved from the beginning with Nest. And I think we're continuing and active with them because it's a great opportunity to educate as well as to actually do. So if anyone has ideas or solutions, I'm happy to sit down and talk about that to really see how we can put that in place.
No, and I think it comes back to my second question. Yes, I mean, I can sometimes go to Flight Radar to know more about what's happening with a plane than looking at the screen in an airport because the airline hasn't told you, but the system on Flight Radar telling me where the plane is. So I know exactly, I'm tracking it, and the airport doesn't even know, and the airline hasn't communicated. But I think what you've said, interestingly, is this kind of identity. I mean, there was spending some time in Saudi Arabia. Now we need a visa. But the airline Saudia, when you buy your flight ticket, the visa is put on your boarding pass. So your visa and your ticket is together. So the digital identity has been put in one document. Yep. So it makes it so easy. I enter Saudi, it takes me they want to be the biggest tourism destination by 2030. It takes 2 minutes to make an e-visa, and my visa, if I buy a ticket with Saudia, the ticket and the visa is put on the same boarding pass. You know, that's not rocket science, but that's something that there's integration between the airline, the government ministries to support such a process. And it seems what you said, creating that. Final words on the airline side.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that has been said. Probably one thing which comes to my mind is you mentioned that looking for potentially also joint use cases, because sometimes you feel like you're very siloed, you're looking at your customer, yeah, right? And you realize, oh, but the way we are looking at the customer journey starts exactly at the same point. So we are planning also right now with another, let's say, airport innovation team to run some ideations and to see, okay, what pain points do you have? What are your interests? What are our interests? And where can we actually serve eventually the customer better? So I think it's great that we know each other right now. Potentially finding joint use cases would make sense to test something on a small scale, as you mentioned also you have done before. I think this is, has some future potential.
Powered by Google, of course.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Okay.
And we're on time. And I don't know if we have time for questions. I'm not sure. So thank you. Thank you very much to my panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.